We're a check to the erosion of your liberties and part of the first line of defense to the advance of the unrestrained power of government, because government is a massive power. One good editorial cartoon, I think, if it's done correctly, can have a significant impact on the political dialogue of the day. If done well, it can influence those who govern to govern responsibly and expose them when they do not. Einstein once said, "Two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity." And I'm not sure about the universe. Einstein was right. It's this axiom that makes political cartooning so important. The people who ultimately govern will make mistakes. Most of them are human after all. But history has demonstrated that power can turn leaders into monsters. So my job is to gladly point out the shortcomings of the powerful in an effort to keep them human. You know, there's a reason our founding fathers included a right to a free press in the First Amendment of our Constitution. Information is a necessary component to guide you in a political system based on self-governance and individual liberty. Think about it. Information is power. Now imagine if you knew about this tiny little computer company back in December 12, 1980, called Apple. If you purchased 100 shares at its initial public offering at $22 a share, those shares would be worth almost $500,000 today. Thomas Jefferson once wrote, "Our liberty depends on the freedom of the press, and that cannot be limited without it being lost." But you know, there's sort of an addendum to that. A free press, I think, is a check on government power. It's a daylight in the dark arena of politics. It provides the voter with information to decide their own future, but the press has to do its job. Now, I don't know if you guys saw it. I did CBS Sunday Morning. Was it last Sunday or the Sunday before? Last Sunday. Sunday before?
Yeah, that was nice.
Well, I have it on tape. I keep watching. I was going to say 2 weeks.
The funny thing about it was that they came into my house, I think, 8:30 in the morning, and they taped until 12:30 that day. And the subject was on how conservative humorists don't get equal time to liberal humorists. And so they spent, I think it was a 5-minute segment, they spent 4 minutes and 20 seconds focusing on Saturday Night Live and all the liberal humorists, and then they gave me 43 seconds to talk about it, which just proved our point.
Yeah.
Look.
I wrote a note, by the way, to
You did?
CBS. They
Thank
haven't
you.
responded.
I think a reporter's job is to be the purveyor of fact, to point out the injustices of the world, to shine the hot spotlight of exposure, to wound the perpetrators of those injustices with the truth. Editorial cartoonists, we just go back and shoot the wounded. But I want to make a distinction here that between objective news reporting and the subjective editorial page. It's always funny when people call me up and they don't call me Mr. Ramirez, they call me other names. But,
Oh my God.
they say, "You are way too opinionated." And I have to say, well, you know, that's why I'm on the opinion page. But I realize, you know, the reason why. Because it's hard to distinguish between the two today. That's the failure of today's journalism.
Very much.
The truth is the mainstream media does an awful job. And you can't distinguish between what is the opinion on the opinion page and the opinions posted in the content of the newspaper as the facts. You know, I think that's why people trust the media less than they do politicians, and we know how much they trust politicians. You know, obviously, it's a factor in circulation numbers going down. Now there's a convergence of media where people are relying on the web for their information. But I think media bias played a bigger role, frankly. I mean, why would anybody want to buy misinformation? You can just get it on the web for free. I think there's a widespread manipulation that's going on in the media, and they've been perpetrating a lot of untruths. And I think finally this election cycle, we're starting to clear some of that out, which is what needs to be done.
Yep.
But I want to tell you, as part of your freedom and liberty, is to stop advancing those ideas and advancing freedom and liberty. Like I think there's, and when we go look beyond this election, there's something I call the three pillars of influence. And I think conservatives need to start engaging on these levels, and the grassroots is where you do it. The first level of influence is education. Now, we shouldn't be surprised
What's that?
that Bernie Sanders did so well, but you could not imagine a Bernie Sanders running for president just 8 years ago, because people would never accept socialism, because they'd witnessed it and they know what it's like. But yet, there's been a transformation of our culture, and they've done it through education. They brainwash our kids. Instead, they're replacing fundamental education with brainwashing. These things need to be returned back to the localities, and you have to get back to the fundamentals of education. They take these ideas, they feed it to our children, and then they reinforce those ideas when they get into higher academia. The chancellor of my school, I graduated from UCI. I actually wanted to be a doctor.
Go anteaters. Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I was telling Les Cohen, the CBS guy, that Barack Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize for doing nothing. I wanted to be a cardiovascular surgeon. I should get a Nobel Peace Prize for all the lives I've saved by being an editorial cartoonist instead. But the chancellor of my school invited me last year out to the graduation because Barack Obama was delivering the graduation speech. And I responded, no thanks, I'm taking my check back. This is how you engage. That's freedom, and that's capitalism. They don't do what you want, you don't support them. And you complain, you make yourself heard. The second pillar of influence, popular culture. Look, I think Friends and these sitcoms, Will and Grace, it had a much, much larger impact on the debate about same-sex marriage than anything done in the political arena. And we don't realize it, but the saturation of these progressive ideas on television have a huge influence. Some of these words that you hear on TV today, you could never hear 10 or 15 years ago. They're slowly undermining our American traditional spirit and ideas and replace them with these values with these progressive ideas. And so we need to engage on that. And I think that's a battle we can win. And let me tell you how. You look at The Passion of Christ. You look at the Chronicles of Narnia. You look at family-oriented films. Hacksaw Ridge. These movies do really well. The family movies are the ones that make all the money. The progressive, strange movies are the ones that win the Academy Awards, but they don't make a dime. So you vote with your pocketbook.
Yes.
And you watch the movies and you watch the shows that reflect your values. And you complain about the ones that don't. And the third pillar of influence, the media. Look, we let the media get away with way too much. You need to engage, write letters, complain, stop your subscription. They're having a tough time anyways. Support news information and feed information that you believe in, that you know is reflecting the facts. And I was at one of those evil Coke conferences, and I almost got excommunicated from my church. And it's great that we invest in these political campaigns. It's important, no question about it. But if we don't invest in these pillars, then we are going to lose this country generationally, because our kids are being brainwashed. Millennials already constitute the largest part of the population today. And they think differently than you and I do, because they don't understand our history, and they don't know our constitutional foundation. I was giving a speech in North Carolina, at the University of North Carolina, to economics students. And there are some economics students who didn't know what Adam Smith was, or who he was.
Wow.
Those kids had a tough time figuring out who John Locke or Rousseau or Madison or our founding fathers were. They could name every member of the Kardashian family. But they couldn't name